Good evening. My name is Michael Garcia. I'm the chair of the Hispanic Vote, and I have the pleasure of interviewing today the Honorable Judge Frank Ledee from the 17th Judicial Circuit. I want to welcome him. Thank you, Judge, for coming.
It is a privilege to be with you, and it's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. This is the first time, actually, Frank, Judge Ledee, I apologize, Judge. You're going to be our guinea pig because this is the first time we're doing actually an interview for Hispanic Vote. So the purpose of this interview is just to give you a background on the judge's history and also give us an update as to how the courts are operating under the current circumstances of this coronavirus. But before we get into that, I want to get some background on the judge and let him tell you a little bit more about himself. So, Judge, please tell us.
Well, I have an incredibly diversified background, as you know. I was born in Puerto Rico. I grew up in the Caribbean. I spent a lot of time in many of the islands in the Caribbean. And then I came up here when I was 11 years old. I came up to go to military school. So when I first came here in 1976, there was nothing west of University Drive. There was nothing out there. So there was the Kapok tree for all intents and purposes. And I attended military school. After that, I went back down to the islands. I did my high school in St. Martin. And I came up here when I was 17 years old. And I went to Barry College at the time. It was called Barry College. I did my undergrad in management. I have my degree in management. And I did my master's 2 years later. And after that, I had one of my professors in business during my master's suggested I take a look at becoming a lawyer. I guess that he thought that I was argumentative. So I ended up doing my degree, my JD at Nova Southeastern. I actually started where Nova was closer to the airport.
Okay.
Or the old building.
The old building.
The old building.
Where there was rats and stuff like that. I heard
all kinds of funny stories.
I heard about that.
But yeah, I was the first class to graduate in 1994 from the new building. And I took one shot at it. I applied to one place. I wanted to be an assistant state attorney. I applied to being a state attorney. I became a state attorney in Miami-Dade. I was hired in Miami-Dade. And I spent 24 and a half years as a prosecutor down there. As
a prosecutor. But your time here in Broward, how long have you been here in Broward?
I have been a Broward resident full-time since 1981.
Okay.
But I was here in 1976. 1976 is the first time that there was snow in Florida.
Oh, the famous snow. That's the year. The famous snow story. Everybody still talks about that. Oh, there was snow. Oh, that's the year. Right. So, I know you have a diverse background. Can you tell us how many languages you speak? I know how many languages you speak, but...
I speak 5 languages fluently, and I write in 4 languages fluently. And the only reason I don't write in patois is because it's a little bit hard to understand the grammar.
Okay.
And the grammar hasn't really been documented very well. But I speak French, I speak Spanish, I speak English, I speak Creole, and I speak patois. The division that you currently sit in now with in the courthouse, what division is that? It's basically the family division. I was appointed in December of 2018, and I became a circuit court judge in 2018 after serving 24 and a half years as a prosecutor. And I came up. The first thing out of the box is they put me in the foreclosure division.
Yes. So. I remember you in foreclosure. And I believe you did a really good job there cleaning up the backlog, and now you're sitting in family. So what I wanted to talk to you about the family division was, how does your background help the litigants that preside in front of you? Because as you know, most of the time they're self-represented or right. not really represented at all. So you get to deal a lot more with the litigants than the attorneys sometimes.
I think it's interesting because you have to have a judicial philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started this, let me take a step back from it. I didn't intend to become a judge. I love what I did. I was a prosecutor. I was really very, very in tune with my community. In addition to that, I served as a member of the Memorial Healthcare System. So I was exposed to Broward County in a very different way than most people are, than most lawyers are. So my judicial philosophy is one that you have to have judges that reflect your community. And the community is changing. So when somebody asked me, well, what is it like to be a judge? I said, well, you have to understand people. When they come to the courtroom, clients, lawyers, what are the things that they want to do? They want a judge that's fair. They want a judge that's going to listen, and a judge that is going to understand. And in order for that to happen, imagine somebody that only speaks Spanish that comes to court, and that's all they speak. And everything around them is in English. And they're seeking justice in a courtroom. They're seeking a fair trial inside a courtroom. Imagine how difficult it is, or how strange it is, for somebody to be in that position when they only understand a language that's foreign to how the tribunal is exercising. So for me, it's really important to cater to everyone that comes before me, give them their time in court, reassure them that I am not only listening, but I understand.
And I want to ask this question because most judges don't speak 2 languages, let alone 4 languages. And I've been in front of you once, and I had the opportunity to watch you use your language skills to help the litigants move forward. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that helps you in specifically in the family division? Because I think in the family division, you have more people that have different languages, Spanish, Creole, French, other languages that come before the court because they don't have an attorney. So as you said, it's hard to communicate.
Absolutely.
So I had the pleasure to watch you communicate with people in different languages. How do you think that helps you move your cases along?
My number one concern is making them feel comfortable. In order to make them feel comfortable, I show them the respect to speak to them in their native tongue. That makes their eyes open up. And at that point, once they're comfortable, it's easier for them to express themselves as to what the relief they're seeking before the court. And it builds a position of trust in the judiciary so that they know that they're being treated fairly, that most importantly, they're being treated with respect. And it is really, really important to me that no one leaves my courtroom without having an understanding of what actually happened in court.
Yeah. With that being said, what are your biggest challenges you face as a judge?
People don't quite realize what being a judge is, okay? And it is a very lonely existence because in reality, you have lawyers in front of you all the time. You have people in front of you all the time, but you're always the judge. So they treat you at arm's length. I have friends that I've known for 20 years that they used to call me Frank in November of 2018, and in December of 2018 is judge. So it's that type of thing. At the same time, I think that one of the true challenges is remembering why you are there. You are there to serve the public. You are there to reassure the public that there is one branch of government that will always give you an unbiased, truly unbiased hearing, that you listen to them, that you will understand them, and truly that you will literally follow the law. And that's important. That people need to know that.
No, that's really important. So what do you like about being a judge?
You know, it's strange, but in the family division, I get to actually, I meet people that have certain problems, and I help them find solutions to their own problems. Because when they come they file a dissolution for marriage, petition for dissolution of marriage, a petition for paternity, and the concern is always, do they have kids? how is this going to affect the kids? And if they invite me into their lives, I have to follow the law. It's always in the best interest of the children. But the reality is, I try to help them find solutions to their own problems.
Okay. Well, as you know, we're right now going through this virus, the coronavirus, and the courts have been closed. And I think you open back up in...
The Supreme Court has said that we are closed until May 29th, with the potential for going even further. So what we started doing in the family, and my colleagues and I, we wanted to reassure everybody, we are open for business. I'm there literally on the bench at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I will finish well into past 6 o'clock if I have to. But I want to reassure that we're doing all of these hearings via video conferencing, via Zoom.
And how is that? Because obviously that's a whole new dynamic to a lot of people.
Sure.
I think for some of the attorneys, calling in, it's kind of, you call in for hearings, but how is it with the actual individuals that are not represented with people that have to now appear in family court? Because it's normally a lot of pro se individuals and families. So how is that?
I will say that the pro ses are easier to deal with than the attorneys. And the reason is that they're more apt to actually using the social media platforms.
So they're not stuck in our own rigid ways that some judges and attorneys are stuck with. Yes, that's interesting. I thought it was going to be more of a...
It's not a challenge. First, they're in an environment where they're comfortable. Secondly,
that's true.
They're in an environment where you can have a conversation, and being in court is a very intimidating concept for them. In that environment, it's easy to talk to them.
I've never thought of that, but that is true because they're normally at home.
Of course.
They're not in the courthouse with all, as you know, in family court, there's so many people on any given day, and so that makes sense. Tell us a little bit more about your background, wife, kids.
My wife and I have been married we dated for 16 years. I finally ran out of excuses. So, at a certain point, you got to say yes. And we've been now married. We just celebrated our 22nd anniversary.
Congratulations!
Together, so well into 38 years together.
You went you went somewhere, right? Because I think I saw you around your anniversary. Did you go to Europe? You were on vacation? You went.
I went, and I took my father. My father is elderly. He is 84 years old.
Okay.
And he wanted to go to Ireland.
Okay.
So I took my mom and dad to Ireland. We had a wonderful time over there. I took my son and my wife as well, and we had a fantastic time. It's just a beautiful, beautiful country, and just an incredible place. So, and then my son, I could not be prouder, and I know you're proud of your children, and I could not be prouder than my son. As of yesterday, he's going to be going. He got a scholarship to attend Harvard.
Wow.
To the architectural department.
Wow, that's a big thing.
He signed the contract yesterday, so he's going to be 3.5 years in Harvard studying architecture, and he just graduated from Columbia, New York.
Are you going to be paying for this, or is this?
I gave him, this is where I'm really proud of him. He actually negotiated a substantial grant from Harvard, and he had a full ride to MIT.
Nice.
So he chose Harvard.
He leveraged it.
Of course.
That is a good thing. That is a good thing.
So.
What messages do you give, or what message would you give to attorneys that appear in front of you now during this crisis and even in the future?
I always tell my attorneys two things. You are an attorney at law, and you're counsel to your client. You have to create an environment of compromise. Because once you bring it in and you say it's a trial, it has to go to trial, you take the power away from the client and you entrust it to the court. I don't live with these folks. I have to have an understanding of what the family dynamics are. And there's certain situations where you have to go to trial. But in many situations, I try to empower the clients to make decisions in their best interest, and I encourage my lawyers to do the same. And the one I've truly have been blessed, both in foreclosure division and in the family division. When I walked in, I told everybody, my background has been criminal for many, many years. Although I have a business background and I have a healthcare background because of the hospital district, my background was mostly criminal. So I wanted the lawyers to educate me. And when they came in, both in foreclosures and family, I told them, I read everything. Give me everything you have. I will follow the law. I want you to educate me. You will never insult me by saying, Judge, here's the case law. This is where you're making a mistake, that type of thing. You will never insult me for that.
Okay.
That's that's a very humble way to approach it.
What is your message to kids? And I ask this because I know you're involved with kids. I know you've done some stuff with Ted Victor where Ted brings kids to the courthouse.
Sure.
To give them an opportunity to interact with judges and attorneys, and specifically low-income kids that don't have those necessary opportunities to interact. So Ted does a great job with that. So what is your message to the kids?
My message is follow your dreams. Seriously. You have a unique opportunity. This country has just, the opportunities are incredible. So when the kids come to my courtroom, what I tried to tell them is I tried to show them an environment. I came from very basic roots. I came from very, very basic roots. My father was a pilot. He started his own airline eventually. But that's what you call working your way up. Mm-hmm. So their dreams, follow them. And I've met with Ted, I've met kids that wanted to be airline mechanics, that wanted to be artists, that wanted to be all kinds of different things, dentists, and things like that. And I still remember the one conversation is about their reputation. It's about the hard work that they're going to put in, how they can go and they can turn that hard work into careers, and never forget where you came from. Never forget that there are people that literally have helped you along the way, and that you should also always say, be grateful to them. And at the same time, you should be a role model. And that's why I'm a role model for these kids, to try and say, listen, I became a judge. I became a judge. You can too.
You can too. You can too. Is there anything that you see that the court system, and specifically in family, can be doing a little bit better?
I think we're adapting, because, and these are suggestions, a very simple suggestion from my clerk. She says, Judge, the attorneys need more time to do what they are, to practice and to make sure that they're getting all the hearings in time, because at a certain point, that division, my division, when I first took it over, had a very, very high caseload. So
what was the caseload when you took it?
It was over 1,200 cases. I'm down to 700.
Yeah, and that's before. I'm going to let you finish your thought before I ask another question. But what's something?
So I'll give you a simple. You consider the pro se's. They have to go to work at 9 o'clock. So I'll take them at 8 o'clock, between 8 and 9 o'clock. By the time that they're done, I will have done 10 to 15 cases with the pro se's in that 1 hour. So that when they leave their Judge, I'm going to work. You go to work. And at the same time, it frees up time so I can deal with the lawyers and that I can give the lawyers greater access. So it's a benefit. Today in the COVID-19 situation, we are in a unique position. We're doing things via Zoom. But think of the benefits. In reality, it saves the litigants a lot of money, because the lawyers are not billing to be outside a courtroom for hours on end waiting for their hearing.
That's correct.
We can call them. And at the same time, it saves the client money, and it saves the lawyers resources, because they can be in their office working, be more productive. And when I call them, we can take care of the hearing. And done. So it makes a big difference. There are certain things that COVID-19 has been a disaster and has harmed so many people. And I pray every night that this thing goes away. But in reality, it has taught me how to be more efficient in how I can help others be more efficient within the justice system.
So you found an opportunity.
Oh yeah.
In a situation that's pretty difficult for everyone, which I tell people, there's always an opportunity to find. There's an opportunity in any situation you have, whether it's positive or negative. There's always an opportunity.
You asked me a question, what else I would do with kids?
Uh-huh.
I encourage the kids to speak multiple languages.
Okay.
As many as you can. It opens your doors.
There's another question that you mentioned this, and I don't think a lot of people recognize this with judges. Judges work a lot harder than most people think because the caseload, you just mentioned your caseload when you came into family was how many cases?
We had 1,200 cases. I'm down to 700, and that's in a little less than a year. And when I first started in foreclosure, we had well above 5,000 cases. When 6 months later, I had it down to 3,000.
Yeah, and on average, most judges have about a docket of 2,000 to 2,500. Is that correct?
It depends on which division, but in family, because of the intensity of the litigation, most caseloads range between 750 to about 1,500. So it just depends on where you are on the spectrum.
Okay.
But it's really important to free up as much time as possible. And I'm lucky because I have an incredible team around me. This is not an effort. I mean, this is not a sole effort. My clerk is outstanding. My JA is probably the best JA in that building. I have a bailiff that is part of the team that manages my time because she manages when people come in, when they go out.
Yeah, she controls the entry to the court, the door.
I am blessed because I have Janine, I have Letitia, and I have Barbara, and they are by far. They look out for the litigants. They look out for lawyers. They look out for me. And without them, I couldn't do what I do.
But Judge, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak to us during this time. Do you have any last words for the community?
For me, as a judge, the most important thing is to have a community that's educated about the judicial system. Anything that I can do to educate people about what we do as judges and how responsive we truly are to the community, you'll see that there's a lot of bad press sometimes. But 99% of the time, you will find us in chambers working, in the courtroom. You'll find me every day in the courtroom, so it doesn't matter. I'm there from 8 o'clock in the morning. But it is incredibly important to educate yourself about what judges do and that they are the third branch of government. The legislature, the executive branch, but the judicial branch. It is incredibly important that people recognize that we are that balance that you have. We are the scales of justice.
Thank you, Judge. As you know, during this virus, we need to keep social distancing, so I won't shake the judge's hand. We'll give him a fist pump. Thank you.